18. Now the setting of our reading is one where Jesus is teaching his disciples about the cost of discipleship, about the cost of following him, a cost that would involve being hated, persecuted, and even marginalized. Jesus said, "If the world hates you, keep in mind it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, for I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. Remember the words I spoke unto you. No servant is greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. They will treat you in this way because of my name, for they do not know the one who has sent me." Amen. And thanks be to God for the reading of his word in public today. I'm sure it was Abraham Lincoln once said, "You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time." Brothers and sisters, you would be forgiven if you have been fooled into believing that the demise of the Orange Order is imminent here in Scotland by those who have an aggressive agenda against the Orange Order and irresponsibly create headlines such as anti-Catholic parades, sectarian-fueled parades, that the Orange Order are an irrelevance in Scotland, seeking only to cause division, tension and unrest. With these unscrupulous headlines, will they make for good reading for the gullible, the impressionable and the naive? These shameful headlines are not fooling anyone in our loyal Orange institution today about the unmitigated campaign to bring our parades to a grinding halt. Quite simply, brothers and sisters, we're not going anywhere. The Orange Order is here to stay well into the future. So, brothers and sisters, do not be fooled into believing the diatribe that comes from the tabloids or on social media. We do not exist to seek the approval of our critics and our opponents. We exist to seek the approval of Almighty God, in whom we place our trust today. Too often we hear the same old rhetoric from our politicians speaking of a modern Scotland, a cultural, diverse Scotland, even a Scotland for all people, ensuring there is no inequality or discrimination against those who are deemed to be a minority group. In a social context, the Orange Order comes under that heading of being a minority group. However, can we stand here today and say with all honesty that being part of a minority group, that our culture and rights are being respected or protected? Can we? Can we honestly say we feel part of a diverse Scotland? Can we honestly say that our tradition, our culture and our religious identity is not being undermined, attacked or persecuted? We can't. As members of the Orange, we do not ask for special privileges. We only ask to be treated with respect and equality, the same as the other groups within our communities. There's always a but. But since last year's unsavoury spitting incident in Glasgow, there has been an increase in anti-Orange and anti-Protestant discrimination. Now, from where I stand and from my perspective, it seems that if you wear these wonderful colours and seek to live out your civil and religious liberties within a modern Scotland, it is deemed as anti-Catholic, triumphant, or even antagonistic. But why are we so hated then for being orange? Why are we persecuted for being orange? And why are we treated as second-class citizens for being members of this institution? So are we, let's reflect, are we anti-Catholic? Are we? No. My goodness, if we are anti-Catholic for believing in a theology that is reformed and evangelical, what does this say about the thousands of Kirk ministers who subscribe to the Westminster Confession of Faith, with statements of faith condemning the papacy and the superstitious works of the Church of Rome? Is the Church of Scotland anti-Catholic for upholding the Westminster Confession of Faith as their subordinate standard? Our gathering today is not about being anti, it's about being pro. Pro for the testimony of Jesus Christ and his finished works on the cross of Calvary, that through him, and not through good deeds or the sacraments of the church, you and I are saved. Are we triumphant? Although we commemorate the 329th anniversary of the Battle of the Boyne, what is more important today for our society and culture is the wider implications of this historical battle. We do not join in celebration today because a Protestant leader defeated a Catholic leader. We celebrate today because of the liberties that were delivered, civil and religious liberties that were secured through a constitutional monarchy for all people, of all persuasions, of all groups, whether you're deemed as a minority group or not. These liberties, brothers and sisters, are God-given, and fundamentally they are ingrained within the very fabric of our society today. Are we antagonistic? Are we? It would be delusional to believe that all of Scottish society welcomes the Orange Order with open arms. Well, today in West Calder we have been received with a degree of warmth, tolerance and hospitality. The same cannot be said of our brothers and sisters in the County Grand Lodge of Glasgow, whose routes are being chopped and changed at the slightest threat of a counter-protest or civil unrest. All because we are deemed to be anti-Catholic and anti-Irish. You can fool some of the people some of the time. It seems that if you galvanise a little support and mobilise the impressionable to counter-protest, citing tensions have increased in the community, you can put the wind up our council officials and put the fear of God into the hearts of Police Scotland, who succumb to this form of grooming, where the threat of civil unrest now merits parades being rerouted. Would someone please explain to me what is so offensive for hymns to be played by any place of worship when there is no service taking place? What is so offensive for a procession to silently, respectfully and with dignity to pass by? Whose rights are more important? You can fool some of the people some of the time. I wonder, have you heard those deranged rants from the Glasgow-based group call it out in their claims of anti-Catholic hatred, anti-Irish racism, that we are an irrelevance? But wait a moment. You can't fool all of the people all of the time. But in this past week or so, the only irrelevance is the Calder out group, who have now been publicly disowned by the Archbishop of St Andrews in Edinburgh, Archbishop Leo Cushley, who went on record saying, and I quote, "I do not have any problems with orange parades passing our churches, as long as it's done, wait for it, respectfully." It would seem that Call It Out have been ecclesiastically booted out, and I hope it hurts them. But as I finish, of course, no one said it would be easy subscribing to ideologies such as Orangism. And Jesus Christ himself didn't say that following me and carrying your own cross would be a walk in the park. Remember the words of Jesus in our reading from John's Gospel: if the world hates you, remember the world hates me first. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you for believing in my name. You see, Jesus Christ experienced first-hand hatred, persecution, and intolerance. So if Jesus experienced these things, are we to believe we should be exempt? However, when we experience them, and we will in the future again, we should see them for what they are, tests of our faith and faithfulness in God, that God has a plan and purpose for us, one to prosper us and one to give us hope. Today, we acknowledge we are imperfect, with blemishes and stains of sin embedded in our hearts. Today, we acknowledge we belong to a minority group. However, we also acknowledge and reaffirm today that when you are one with Almighty God, you are in the majority. And what a majority we belong to today. May God bless you and have a safe procession, brothers and sisters.